Throughout the history of our planet, life has demonstrated an extraordinary ability to adapt and thrive in the most challenging of environments. Humanity, in its quest for safety, sustenance, and community, is no exception. We often think of settlements as sprawling across open plains or nestled in gentle valleys, following the path of least resistance. Yet, across the globe, there are communities that have chosen a different path, defying the usual rules of territory. They've built their homes on sheer cliffs, balanced precariously over vast bodies of water, squeezed between towering mountains, or established themselves in places so isolated they seem to belong to another world entirely. These are not relics of a forgotten past, but living, breathing societies that have forged a unique bond with their formidable surroundings. On this journey, we'll discover real communities that continue to inhabit spaces that defy logic. These settlements are a testament to human ingenuity, resilience, and an unyielding will to create a home, no matter the odds. Each place we visit showcases a different and often breathtaking way of living in harmony or in constant negotiation with the environment. They challenge our very notion of what is possible and where life can flourish. From the floating villages of Africa to the cliff-hanging towns of Europe and the terraced communities of Asia, we will explore the stories behind their creation and the daily realities of their inhabitants. These are places where the landscape is not just a backdrop, but an integral character in the story of the people who live there. Get ready for a journey through some of the 15 most surprising villages in the world. Let's begin our journey. Our journey begins in West Africa, on the calm waters of Lake Nokoué in Benin. Here, we find Gambier, a village that exists almost entirely on water. What we see is not a collection of houseboats, but a permanent, thriving community of over 20,000 people living in homes built on sturdy teak stilts. The streets are waterways, and the primary mode of transport is the dugout canoe. From this vantage point, one can observe the rhythm of daily life unfolding on the water's surface. Children paddle themselves to a floating school, merchants navigate a bustling floating market, and families visit neighbors by boat, their reflections shimmering below. The origins of Gambier are rooted in a desperate search for safety. In the 17th century, the Tofinu people fled the aggressive Fon warriors of the Dahomey Kingdom, who were notorious for capturing and selling other tribes into slavery. Religious beliefs prevented the Fon from venturing onto the water, so the Tofinu people established a refuge here, on the lake. What began as a sanctuary has since evolved into a complex and self-sustaining society. The lake provides not only protection but also sustenance through an ingenious system of aquaculture where fish are farmed in underwater pens made of reeds. Life here is a delicate dance between human ingenuity and the natural environment. Every aspect of existence, from building a home to sourcing food and raising a family, is intrinsically linked to the water. The constant lapping of the lake against the wooden stilts is the village's heartbeat. Gambier stands as a powerful testament to how a community, faced with an existential threat, can turn an environment that seems inhospitable into a unique and enduring stronghold, a veritable citadel built not of stone, but of wood, water, and sheer will. We travel now to southern Italy, to the sun-drenched region of Puglia. Here, nestled in the countryside, lies a village that appears to have sprung from the pages of a fairy tale, Albero Bello. The landscape is dominated by hundreds of peculiar cone-shaped dwellings known as trulli. These whitewashed limestone houses, with their gray, corbelled stone roofs, create a scene that is utterly unique in all the world. Walking through the narrow, winding streets of its two main districts, Rione Monti and Ayapicola, feels like stepping into another dimension, where geometry and tradition have conspired to build a dreamscape. The story behind these curious structures is a fascinating tale of tax evasion. In the 15th century, the local feudal lords, the Counts of Conversano, wanted to avoid paying property taxes to the Kingdom of Naples. They instructed their peasant workers to build their homes using a dry stone technique, without any mortar. This meant the houses could be quickly dismantled when the tax inspectors were rumored to be in the area, giving the impression of an uninhabited and therefore untaxable region. The conical roof, constructed of overlapping limestone slabs, was key to this design, as a single capstone could be removed, causing the entire roof to collapse. What began as a clever temporary solution has become a permanent and cherished architectural heritage. Today, Albero Bello is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's truly meticulously preserved. Many are still inhabited by local families, while others have been converted into shops, restaurants, and small guest houses, inviting visitors to experience this surreal atmosphere firsthand. The symbols painted on the roofs, pagan, Christian, or magical, add another layer of mystery, speaking of ancient beliefs and a deep connection to the land. Albero Bello is a remarkable example of how human resourcefulness, born from necessity, can create a place of enduring and whimsical beauty. Our next destination takes us to one of the driest places on Earth, the coastal desert of Peru. Amidst an endless sea of towering sand dunes, some reaching several hundred meters in height, lies an almost unbelievable sight. A small, tranquil lagoon, fringed with palm trees and a handful of rustic buildings. This is the village of Huacachina, a true desert oasis. The transition from the vast, barren expanse of sand to this lush pocket of life is abrupt and startling. It appears as a mirage, yet it is a real, functioning community, a tiny speck of green and blue in a world of ochre and gold. For centuries, this natural lagoon was a place of rest and rejuvenation for weary travelers crossing the desert. Local legends speak of the water's curative properties, drawing pilgrims from far and wide. The name itself, Huacachina, is said to mean weeping woman in Quechua, tied to a myth of an Incan princess whose tears formed the lagoon. In the 1940s, it became a fashionable spa resort for wealthy Peruvians, and the beginnings of a permanent settlement took shape around the water's edge. Now it has evolved into a stable, albeit small, community. Life in Huacachina is defined by its isolation and its unique relationship with the surrounding desert. The dunes, once a formidable barrier, have become the village's primary attraction, drawing thrill seekers for sandboarding and dune buggy rides. Yet the existence of the oasis is precarious. The water level of the lagoon has been dropping for decades, and today it is maintained by artificially pumping water from a nearby well. Huacachina is a fragile paradise, a community that has sprung up around a precious natural anomaly and now fights to preserve the very feature that gives it life, a constant battle against the encroaching sands of time. We now venture into the rugged heart of central Portugal, to the slopes of the Serra do Açor. Hidden away in a remote, steep-sided valley is the village of Piodão. From a distance, it is almost invisible, its houses so perfectly integrated with the mountainside that they seem to be a natural extension of the landscape itself. The village is constructed almost entirely from schist, the dark, slate-like stone quarried from the surrounding hills. The walls are schist, the roofs are schist, and the narrow winding streets are paved with schist, creating a remarkable, unified monochrome palette. This uniformity is punctuated only by the brilliant white of the church and the vibrant blue paint that frames the windows and doors of every house. The story goes that this specific shade of blue was chosen simply because it was the only paint available in a remote store, a happy accident that has become the village's signature. The layout of Piodão is a masterclass in adaptation. Houses are built one on top of the other, clinging to the steep terrain in a dense, amphitheater-like formation. There are no wide avenues here, only a labyrinth of staircases and narrow passages that follow the contours of the land. For centuries, Piodão's isolation was its defining characteristic. The difficult access protected it from outside influences, preserving its unique architectural style and way of life. This very isolation, however, also led to its decline as younger generations sought opportunities elsewhere. In recent decades, a renewed appreciation for its heritage has brought new life to the village. Piodon stands as a powerful symbol of harmony between human settlement and the natural world. A place where the buildings do not dominate the landscape, but rather pay quiet homage to it, whispering the story of a community carved from the very mountain it calls home. Our journey takes us to the emerald waters of Phang Nga Bay in southern Thailand, a seascape famous for its dramatic limestone karsts that jut vertically from the sea. Tucked away at the base of one of these monolithic cliffs is Koh Phanyi, a village that appears to float on the water's surface. This remarkable settlement is built almost entirely on an intricate network of stilts with wooden walkways and platforms connecting hundreds of houses, restaurants, shops, and even a mosque. The only solid ground is the towering rock that serves as the village's backdrop and anchor. Koh Phanyi was founded at the end of the 18th century by nomadic Malay fishermen. At the time, laws forbade anyone other than those of Thai nationality from owning land, so these resourceful pioneers decided to build their homes over the water, cleverly circumventing the restrictions. The village began with just a few families and has since grown into a bustling community of around 1,700 people, all descended from the original settlers. The entire village is a testament to their ingenuity, a sprawling wooden structure that has expanded organically over generations. Daily life here is a constant negotiation with the tides. The sea is the provider, the highway, and the playground. Fishing remains a cornerstone of the economy, but the village has also embraced tourism, welcoming visitors who come to marvel at its unique construction. Perhaps the most famous symbol of Koh Phanyi's spirit is its floating football pitch. Built by the local children from old wood scraps and fishing rafts, it's a testament to their passion and creativity in an environment with no flat land. Koh Phanyi is more than a village. It's a living monument to the idea that with enough creativity, a home can be built anywhere, even on the sea itself. We return to Italy, to the rugged coastline of Liguria, to explore one of the 5 villages that make up the famous Cinque Terre. This is Vernazza, a place squeezed into an impossibly narrow space between the mountains and the Mediterranean Sea. The village cascades down a steep ravine, its cluster of tall, slender houses painted in a vibrant palette of pastel pinks, yellows, and reds. It culminates in a small, natural harbor, a tiny piazza bustling with life, all watched over by the medieval Doria Castle, its lookout tower standing sentinel against the horizon. Vernazza's very existence is a triumph over geography. There is virtually no flat land here, and as a result, the village grew vertically rather than outwards. The main street, Via Roma, follows the path of the stream that carved the valley, and the Karugi, narrow, shadowy alleyways and steep staircases, branch off it, leading up into the terraced vineyards that cling to the mountainside. For centuries, the primary connection to the outside world was by sea, which fostered a strong maritime tradition and a sense of fierce independence among its people. The lack of space has perfectly preserved Vernazza's character. There are no cars. The sounds are of chatter from the cafes, the lapping of waves in the harbor, and the church bells echoing through the valley. This idyllic setting, however, is not without its perils. In 2011, a devastating flood and mudslide buried the lower part of the village, a brutal reminder of the power of the landscape it inhabits. The subsequent restoration, a testament to the community's resilience, has returned Vernazza to its former glory. It remains a breathtaking example of a village shaped and defined by the dramatic meeting of mountain and sea. High in the hills north of Rome, we find a village that seems to defy gravity itself. Calcata Vecchia is perched atop a sheer cliff of volcanic tuff, a dramatic plug of rock rising 150 meters above the lush Treja Valley. The village appears to grow organically from the stone, its tightly packed houses and medieval fortifications forming a single, cohesive entity with the rock beneath. To approach it is to feel as though you are discovering a lost fortress, a place forgotten by time, accessible only by a single fortified gate that leads into a maze of cobblestone alleys. The history of Calcutta is one of near death and remarkable rebirth. The village, inhabited for nearly 3,000 years, was condemned by the government in the 1930s. The volcanic rock it was built on was deemed unstable, and it was feared the entire settlement could crumble and fall into the valley below. Its residents were forcibly relocated to a new town, Calcutta Nuova, nearby. For decades, Calcutta Vecchia became a ghost town, its empty houses slowly succumbing to the elements, a hauntingly beautiful ruin. Then, in the 1960s, a strange thing happened. Artists, hippies, and free thinkers from around the world began to discover the abandoned village. They were drawn by its otherworldly beauty, its isolation, and its cheap, empty homes. They moved in as squatters, slowly and carefully restoring the crumbling buildings, breathing new life into the ancient stones. Today, Calcutta Vecchia is a vibrant bohemian community of artists and artisans. The very threat of collapse that once emptied, it has now become its savior, preserving it from modern development and creating one of Italy's most unique and creative enclaves, a village that was saved by being abandoned. Our journey now takes us deep into the Cordillera Mountains of the northern Philippines, to a place accessible only by a long and arduous trek. Here, in a remote corner of Ifugao Province, lies the village of Batad. The settlement itself is modest, a small cluster of traditional huts with thatched roofs. But it is the landscape that the village inhabits, which is truly astonishing. Batad sits at the heart of a perfect semicircular amphitheater of rice terraces, carved into the mountainside over 2,000 years ago by the ancestors of the people who live here today. These terraces are a masterpiece of ancient engineering. Following the natural contours of the mountains, they are irrigated by a complex system that channels water from streams and waterfalls higher up the slopes. They are often called the eighth wonder of the world, and standing before them, it is easy to see why. The entire valley has been sculpted by human hands, transforming a steep, unforgiving landscape into a productive and breathtakingly beautiful agricultural marvel. The village of Batad is not merely surrounded by this landscape, it is an integral part of it. Life here is governed by the rhythm of the rice. The planting, transplanting, and harvesting seasons dictate the daily activities of the entire community. The Ifugao people have an intimate and spiritual connection to the terraces, which are not just a source of food, but a living monument to their heritage. A near-constant fog often shrouds the valley, adding to the mystical atmosphere and giving the impression that the village and its terraces are floating in the clouds. Batad is a profound example of a community living in complete symbiosis with its environment, a place where culture, agriculture, and nature are woven together into a single, magnificent tapestry. We sail to the Aegean Sea, to the coast of the Peloponnese in Greece. Rising dramatically from the water is a colossal rock, a monolithic island connected to the mainland by a single narrow causeway. Hidden from view on the seaward side of this rock lies the town of Monemvasia. Its name means single entrance, and for good reason. This is a natural fortress, a place designed by geology to be defended. From the mainland, one sees only barren rock. The thriving medieval town within remains a complete secret until you pass through its gate. Once inside the formidable walls, you are transported back in time. The lower town is a labyrinth of narrow, winding Byzantine alleyways, too small for any vehicle, where vaulted passages connect stone houses and tiny, flower-filled courtyards. The buildings seem to cling to the base of the cliff, their tiled roofs a sea of terracotta against the blue of the Aegean. Above, a steep, zigzagging path leads to the upper town, a ruined citadel that offers breathtaking views and whispers of a more populous and powerful past, when Monemvasia was a major maritime trading hub. Founded in the 6th century by inhabitants fleeing mainland invasions, Monemvasia flourished under Byzantine, Venetian, and Ottoman rule, its strategic position making it a coveted prize. It was a fortress town that was never conquered by force, only by siege. Today, much of the lower town has been beautifully restored, its historic mansions converted into boutique hotels and charming cafes. Walking its polished stone streets, with no cars and only the sound of the sea below, is an immersive experience. Monemvasia is a living museum, a perfectly preserved capsule of medieval life hidden within the heart of a giant rock. Our travels now take us to Indonesia, off the coast of Sumbawa. Here we find Bunjin Island, a place that, honestly, defies all conventional logic of personal space. It is often cited as one of the most densely populated islands on the planet. From the air, it looks less like an island and more like a solid raft of rooftops floating on the sea. There are no yards, no gardens, no open spaces to speak of. Houses are built wall to wall, and the entire island is a maze of incredibly narrow pathways, some only wide enough for a single person to pass. The island was originally a tiny sandbar, a fraction of its current size, settled by the seafaring Bajo people. The Bajo are traditionally nomadic, living on boats, but on Bunjin, they created a permanent settlement. The most extraordinary aspect of Bunjin is that the island itself is man-made. The primary building material here is coral. Over generations, as the population grew, new families would build wooden platforms on stilts over the surrounding reef, fill them with dead coral, and then construct their homes on top. The island has literally been built and expanded by its own inhabitants. This unique method of construction has created a society with unusual traditions. For example, it is customary for a newly married couple to build their own plot of land next to their family's home, further expanding the island's footprint. Life here is lived in extremely close quarters, fostering a powerful sense of community, but it also comes with immense risks. The island is highly vulnerable to rising sea levels and storms. Goats, the only livestock, can be seen wandering the narrow alleys, remarkably adapted to this strange, crowded environment. Bunjin is a startling example of human adaptation pushed to its absolute limit. We journey far to the north, above the Arctic Circle, to the Lofoten Archipelago in Norway. Here, amidst a landscape of staggering beauty, lies the fishing village of Rain. The setting is almost otherworldly. Jagged granite peaks, their slopes dusted with snow, rise directly from the sea, cradling a collection of small islands connected by bridges. On these islands, nestled along the shoreline, are the traditional red and white fishing cabins, known as roerboer, many of which are built on stilts over the crystal-clear water. Rain has been a center for fishing for over 250 years, its location providing a sheltered harbor and direct access to the rich fishing grounds of the Norwegian Sea. For generations, the rhythm of life here has been dictated by the seasons and the cod. The iconic wooden racks, or hjell, that dot the landscape are used for drying fish, a practice that has sustained the community for centuries. The interplay between land and sea is absolute. The village exists in the space where the mountains meet the water, a thin line of human habitation against a backdrop of immense natural power. Living in Rain means embracing the extremes of the Arctic. In winter, the days are short and the landscape is cloaked in a soft blue light, often illuminated by the ethereal dance of the northern lights. In summer, the midnight sun bathes the village in perpetual daylight, creating a surreal, timeless atmosphere. Despite its small size, Rain is often called the most beautiful village in the world. a place where the raw, dramatic power of nature is in perfect, breathtaking harmony with a simple, resilient human settlement. It is a village that doesn't defy its environment, but rather is defined by it. We travel to Catalonia, Spain, to the banks of the Ebro River. Here, the village of Miravet presents a dramatic face to the world. It is a settlement built in two parts, inextricably linked. At the river's edge is the modern part of the town, but rising directly behind it, clinging to a steep, rocky hillside, is the old village, or Cap de la Villa. The houses here seem to be piled one on top of the other, their foundations merging with the cliff face, all culminating in the magnificent Templar castle that crowns the summit. The layout of Old Miravet is a direct response to the challenging topography. It is a vertical village, a cascade of terracotta roofs and weathered stone walls that seem to spill down the hillside towards the water. Every available inch of space has been utilized. Houses are built into the rock, with cellars and rooms carved directly from the cliff. The streets are steep, narrow, and often turn into staircases, winding their way up towards the castle. The view from the top is a commanding one, looking out over the winding Ebro and the fertile plains beyond, making it clear why this was such a strategic location for the Knights Templar. The relationship with the river is fundamental. For centuries, a traditional ferry, a simple wooden platform guided by river currents and a system of ropes, was the primary means of crossing the Ebro at this point. This simple yet ingenious vessel still operates today, a living piece of history. Miravet demonstrates a remarkable adaptation to a difficult site, a place where the architecture is not just placed upon the land, but is woven into its very fabric. It is a village that tells a story of defense, of faith, and of a deep, enduring connection to the river that flows at its feet. Deep within the Caucasus Mountains of Georgia, in the remote and beautiful region of Svaneti, we find a community that seems frozen in the Middle Ages. Ushguli is not a single village, but actually a collection of 4 small hamlets, recognized as one of the highest continuously inhabited settlements in Europe. The landscape here is dominated by a unique and formidable architectural feature, the Svan Tower. Dozens of these stone defensive towers, built between the 9th and 12th centuries, rise from the clusters of 2-story stone houses, creating a skyline unlike any other on Earth. These towers were family strongholds, serving as both a watchtower and a place of refuge during the region's frequent invasions and blood feuds. A family's home was attached to the base, and in times of danger, both the people and their livestock could retreat into the tower for protection. The harshness of the environment and the isolation of the region, Ushguli is cut off by snow for more than half the year, bred a fiercely independent and resilient people. The towers are a stark, vertical expression of that spirit, a symbol of the constant need for vigilance and defense. Life in Ushguli remains deeply traditional, revolving around subsistence farming and animal husbandry in the short summer months. The community is surrounded by some of the highest peaks of the Greater Caucasus, including Georgia's highest mountain, Shkara, which provides a truly epic backdrop. The air is thin, the weather is unpredictable, and the pace of life is slow, dictated by ancient customs. To visit Ushguli is to step into a living history book, a place where medieval architecture stands defiant against the passage of time and the immense power of the mountains. Our penultimate destination is a tiny hamlet in the wild and windswept Faroe Islands, a Danish archipelago in the North Atlantic. For centuries, the village of Gassadalur was one of the most isolated places in Europe. Perched on the edge of a high cliff on the island of Vagar, it was hemmed in on one side by the vast ocean and on the other by the highest mountains on the island. The only way to reach it was by a strenuous and perilous hike over a 400-meter-high mountain pass, or by boat if the notoriously rough seas permitted. The most iconic image of Gassadalur is the Moula Fossur waterfall, where the stream that runs through the village plunges directly from the cliff edge into the ocean below. The village itself is a picture of serene harmony with its environment. A handful of traditional houses with distinctive turf roofs huddle together for protection against the fierce Atlantic winds. These grass roofs provide excellent insulation and help the buildings blend seamlessly into the green landscape. Life here was a constant struggle against the elements and isolation. Everything changed in 2004. A tunnel was blasted through the mountain, finally connecting Gassadalur to the rest of the island's road network. This single piece of engineering saved the village from extinction. Its population, which had dwindled to just 16 people, has since begun to slowly grow again. Gassadalur is a poignant story of survival. It represents the delicate balance between preserving a traditional way of life and the need for modern connection. It is a place of profound, raw beauty, where the resilience of a tiny community is matched only by the dramatic power of the landscape it calls home. For our final destination, we travel to the Taihang Mountains in China's Henan province. Here, carved into the side of a sheer vertical cliff, is the village of Guoliang. For centuries, this settlement was almost completely cut off from the outside world, accessible only by a perilous set of nearly 720 steps chiseled into the mountainside, known as the Sky Ladder. The village itself sits on a plateau nestled within a deep valley, a hidden world surrounded by towering rock walls. The story of Guoliang is the story of its road. The isolation was so profound that in 1972, the villagers decided to take matters into their own hands. Led by the village head, Shen Mingxin, 13 of the strongest men began a monumental task to carve a road through the side of the cliff. Using only hand tools, hammers and chisels, they labored for 5 years, inching their way through the solid rock. They hung from ropes to chisel the outer face, creating a tunnel nearly a mile long, 12 feet high and 15 feet wide. The windows they carved to push out rubble now offer terrifyingly beautiful views of the valley below. This incredible feat of determination and collective effort, the Guoliang Tunnel, transformed the village forever. It opened Guoliang to the world, bringing not only supplies and opportunities, but also tourists, who come to marvel at both the village's stunning location and the legendary road that leads to it. The village of Guoliang is perhaps the ultimate testament to human willpower. It is a community that did not just adapt to its impossible location, but actively reshaped the mountain itself to carve its own destiny, proving that with enough courage, there is no barrier that cannot be overcome. Our journey through these 15 remarkable villages comes to an end, but the impression they leave is lasting. From the floating homes of Gambier to the cliff-carved road of Guoliang, we have witnessed the extraordinary spectrum of human adaptation. Each place tells a different story, marked by the surrounding landscape and by decisions made over generations. They are living chronicles of resilience, ingenuity, and the deep, primal need to create a community and a sense of belonging, even in the most improbable of places. These settlements challenge our assumptions and expand our understanding of what it means to build a home. These villages are not just geographical oddities. They are homes to vibrant cultures, each with a unique perspective on life, shaped by their daily dance with their environment. They remind us that the world is filled with wonder, often hidden in the most remote and unexpected corners. If any of these villages surprised you the most, or if you know of another settlement in an unthinkable place that should appear on a future tour, leave it in the comments and tell us where in the world you're watching from. We are always fascinated to learn about new, incredible places from you, our fellow explorers. Your engagement helps fuel our expeditions to the far reaches of the globe. If you found this trip interesting, a like and subscribing to the channel helps us continue exploring unique corners of the planet and sharing their stories with you. The world is vast and full of stories waiting to be told, of communities that continue to thrive against all odds. Thank you for joining us, and until the next one,